All right, we are here live at the driving range at the KPMG Women's PGA Championship at the home of the PGA of America. As a PGA professional myself, my name is Abby Parsons. This is one of the coolest things ever.
Yep, and I'm Ryan Adams, also a PGA of America golf professional alongside Abby, and we're super psyched to do a little bit of coaching today on the range, see what the players are working on before they head out on the Fields Ranch East, and yeah, I'm super excited and hopefully see some good swings and give you some good coaching tips there at home.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love my students back home, but I have to say this is pretty darn cool.
Yeah. These would be good students to have, so we're pretty excited, and we're looking forward to a great hour of streaming coverage, and hopefully you learn a thing or two as well.
I know I will.
Yeah.
That's for sure. All right, we're going to take a live look at Yanni Tseng, 5-time major champion.
Yeah, and Yanni Tseng is warming up here ahead of her round. And yeah, what we'll do today, everyone, is just kind of give you a little bit of an insight into what Abby and I see as PGA of America golf professionals and PGA coaches. And you know, Yanni has been a fixture on the LPGA Tour for a while, plus the 5 major championships. And so I think it's important to kind of focus on her fundamentals, because that's usually what is a good foundation for any golf swing. So as we look here at Yanni Tseng, wearing the green and white today, it's very warm out here today, so you probably will see, as we kind of go around the range, a lot of players making slow, rhythmic swings, not trying to beat balls and do too many practice shots, and really focus on making sure that they are bringing their best out on the golf course. So Yanni, has a nice swing here, doing a little, probably a couple 3/4 shots, it looks like, just trying to get things dialed in for her round. And I really like, from our vantage point, we have a nice face-on view. You're seeing kind of down the line, and I think, the thing that's most important to focus on with Yanni is that you can see her making that full, complete turn here, trying to get that lower body through ahead of her hands so that they clear out, and then she's center impact. So I don't know what you see, Abby, but maybe a few things to add.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they're not here to find anything. I mean, she's won major championships before. She's not new to any of this. I think she's probably most working on tempo, getting her wedges dialed. Like you said, just warming up the body. I know she's probably feeling the heat like we are right now, but she's definitely feeling the wind as well. So most likely working on those flighted wedges too, so she can have that control around the greens. But yeah, I mean, 5-time major champion, it's hard to question anything she's doing either, but she's got beautiful tempo right now, and I'm sure that's definitely what she's focusing on as she's warming up.
Yeah, for sure. And she goes off today at 1:22 p.m. with Danielle Kang and Se-Young Kim, which will be a great for those maybe heading out this afternoon. That's one of the good pairings out there for sure. Or, I'm sorry, one of the good groupings out there to see at Fields Ranch East. And yeah, Abby's right. Like, the wind is picking up a little bit, I would say. It's probably more like at a 10 to 15 mile an hour steady breeze at this point, and it's expected to go further. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Yanni kind of work through some, as Abby was saying, some abbreviated follow-throughs and trying to flight her shots a little bit. And we'll take a look at one swing here. Yeah, that one's a little bit more of a full swing, and she's just probably working through the bag right now, just trying to get a sense of where my yardages are, how far my clubs are going. The breeze today on the range is into all the players, so. And she has, another good thing that all golfers should probably have is a PGA coach, and hers is Brady Riggs, who has been teaching her for a little bit, and probably just kind of trying to keep an eye on things, make sure she's in the right positions and the spots. And that's what PGA coaches do for you at home, folks, is they make sure that your golf swing is as best as it can be, and help you, on your golf journey to be, major champion like Yanni, or just try to break 90s. So, Abby, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure the relationship between her and Brady is great. The fact that they're on the driving range together before the first round is awesome. And we are going to show you some top tracer coverage here. It does look like she is working on those wedges at the moment. She does have a launch monitor in front of her as well, just getting those yardages dialed in. But super important around here, there's a lot of long holes here at Fields Ranch, and I think the main thing that I've heard is the rough is quite thick, and there's going to be times where they miss the fairway as well, where they're going to have to hit that wedge out of there. So I'm sure she's thinking about that as well. as she's working on her yardages. Looks like she's chatting with Brady at the moment. Getting some water, definitely needed here today, but no, it looks good so far.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, we have the top tracer range, and you're kind of seeing her try to dial in that 80 to 100 probably distance at the moment with maybe some wedges. And I like, you know, if you're thinking about how do I start out my range session at home, wedges are always a good start, right? Because it gives you the right tempo, the right speed. You don't want to be too fast or too slow, because if you're too fast or too slow with your wedges, then that brings in chunks and thins and stuff. So the wedges, I like to kind of work up through my bag, and I advise, you know, people that I teach and stuff to do that as well, and just try to get the rhythm down. You can see Yanni, I kind of love this exaggerated follow through, kind of trying to drag that heel or that club head, I'm sorry, the handle of the club head through and try to get that squared up at impact. A lot of times people will get out of sync with their lower body, and they'll have their hands go ahead first, and their lower body's trying to catch up, and they'll hit it out to the right, or maybe pull through with their hands and hit it to the left. And so I like this kind of like abbreviated motion from Yanni. It's probably a little bit of dealing with the wind and a little bit of trying to flight some wedges maybe into, you know, potentially the long par fives out here for her third shots, or around the greens, or whatever, what have you. So yeah, it's one of the best swings out here. So it's a fun way to start this session.
Oh, absolutely, and I agree with you. Starting with wedges is the way to go. I have to say, when I'm teaching a lesson and it's for the first time with a student, they bring out the driver, they're like, can you watch this? And I'm like, whoa, slow your roll there. That's not the way to start. That doesn't warm up your body. It doesn't get your tempo going. Starting with these wedges, I think, is definitely the way to go. It looks like she is still working on that first green here with the top tracer. And like Ryan said, getting her path dialed with these wedges is super important. For me, the most common miss with wedge 2 is not only direction, but the contact. It's really important to have a little bit of weight on that front foot at address with wedges when you're not doing a full swing, because it makes sure the club bottoms out at the right spot. I see so many people hit some heavy wedges. It's because they move so far away from the ball with such a short club. And you can see Yanni here, she's staying over the ball great. Her spine's staying over the ball. She's not moving too much. She's keeping it very consistent, and that is something that the people at home definitely need to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, and you just saw there, she's just kind of getting that feel down of what this feels like as I drag the club handle through impact and try to be square, right? And I really like that drill. And sometimes, you know, if you're at the range trying to work on something, you know, you might think, well, I need to hit a full bucket of balls to make a change. You actually can take, you know, 3 or 4 practice swings, rehearse that exaggerated motion, and try to feel what you're trying to work on and try to be better at, and then hit the ball. Like, a lot of the times people are like, I want this change to happen as quick as possible, so they'll just go to the range and hit 50 golf balls, and a lot of the times that doesn't work. So, you know, the Yanni exaggerated club handle thing there, it's a good way for her to feel what I need to feel out on the golf course, and maybe she's working on something, maybe a different feel, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing to watch. So
yeah, if you're watching from home on our YouTube live feed, please put in some comments. We're happy to answer them. We love questions. That's what we're here for. We are PGA coaches ourselves. So if you see something on the range and you're like, wait, I've never seen that before, can you help us out? Or just have a question about your own swing, we are happy to help for sure. But yeah, Yanni's just getting these wedges dialed. It looks awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing you just saw there is a little bit of a takeaway thing. And I think that just as important as impact is how you start your swing. So that takeaway, it's important to make sure you got that dialed in as well. So, and we're going to move over to Elizabeth Szokol. She's from Illinois, and Szokol, I'm sorry. She's teeing off at 12:49 today. And yeah, I don't know a lot about Elizabeth's swing, but that's what kind of is fun about this session, is being able to kind of look at some of the golf swings out here on the range, and just what can you pick out? What can you pick out from their swings to apply to your own game? So I don't know if you have anything to add there, Abby.
Yeah, and she has a PGA coach as well, Justin Sheehan from Tampa, Florida. Always love that PGA coach representation, especially with the tour players here. Yeah, same thing. I'm not super familiar with her swing, but I mean, we won't see a bad swing out here.
No.
The main thing and the major difference here with the LPGA tour players, their tempo and their swing speed is something that everybody should strive for at home. We're not trying to absolutely demolish the golf ball. You can see they are taking the smoothest swings, and that golf ball still gets out there. Believe it or not, the harder you swing, that does not mean the ball goes further, and you can see that here. They definitely still get it off the tee. Their irons are great distances as well, and they are far more controlled. Super fun to watch. But yeah, I think especially having a PGA coach with her, it's really cool to see the dynamic between player and coach, and I'm excited to watch her.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, as we kind of watch her work through her bag here, I think the most important thing is, you know, as Abby said, a lot of these players that you'll see, you know, on the range here or on the course, they have just phenomenal tempo, and I think a lot of the times at home, people try to, as Abby was saying, just, you know, hit the ball as hard as possible, right? Like, I want to get it as far as possible, so the only way to do that is to hit it as hard, or to take as fast a swing as possible. But as you can see, you know, with Elizabeth's swing, and we'll probably work through a lot of different players today out here, is they're never in any rush. They're never in any rush, and I think you can kind of see that on the top tracer, is the swings end up being, or the ball flights end up being pretty similar. You can see that where they're all kind of on the same arc and the same sort of trajectory, and so with good tempo comes good straight ball flight, and I think that's maybe one of the most important things people can take away from the range today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you look at the top tracer here, looks like she's probably working on some iron play, maybe a short iron. Ball speed 119, carry 156. I mean, and look at those, and look at the difference between all of those shots. They're super minimal, and like we said, it's not because she's trying to hit it super hard. She's just working on tempo, balance. Looks like she's working on some shot shaping now with these. But no, overall, I totally agree. I think, especially with irons out here, you're not out here to hit a bucket of balls. And you mentioned earlier, practice swings are just as important. I think we need to normalize practice swings on the driving range. You are not out there to hit a bucket of balls. Practice swings are a great opportunity to actually exaggerate what you're working on. And you'll see a lot of those out here today for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, I think you know, as we kind of look at where her ball's going, it's good to have a repeatable flight too, right? A lot of the times, you know, you might have a dogleg right or a dogleg left, and you'll see that out on Fields Ranch East today. Gilhan's did a really nice job of having a variety of different holes and trying to test, you know, golfers who come here 365 days a year, or the best players in the world, right? And so I think when it comes to shot shape, and we're just gonna, you know, we'll watch that shot shape, and we're just gonna watch her swing a little bit and just see how repeatable it is. And I think that's one of the more important things you can take away, is having that go-to shot shape to get you down the fairway and onto the green a little bit easier. So we're just gonna take a watch here with Elizabeth.
Alrighty, welcome back. We have eyes on Georgia Hall warming up now. Friendly reminder, please have some questions in the comments. If you're watching, if you have any questions about anything you see, anything about your own game, we are happy to help. But we are happy to also look at Georgia Hall here. Obviously great friends with Charlie Hull, major champion, played on the Solheim Cup several times. Great player to watch, but yeah, looks like she's just getting started.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that I've always loved about Georgia Hall, and she's going off today at 12:38 p.m. with Cheyenne Knight, Texas native, and then Allie Knight. So lots of Knights around Georgia Hall. Allie is a PGA of America golf professional on the Corbridge financial team. But Georgia, I think what we're seeing here is, you know, a little bit more of a full swing. And I think you just saw there how her, you know, the middle of her body is pointed at her target, right? And I think a lot of the times, you know, either your belt buckle or whatever you kind of can use as a reference point, that needs to be pointed at your target every time. If you end up kind of with your belt buckle to the right or to the left of your target, that usually means that something happened on the backswing and it's not a great swing. So what I love about Georgia's swing is she always finishes with a nice full finish, and her belly button is pointed straight at the targets, and that means that her shot shape is starting out straight and it might be going a little left or a little right. We'll kind of look at that, you know, with the top tracer technology, but I've always admired that she always makes a good move at it, but always remembers also to take a full finish. So for those at home, that's a great point to remember when you're out on the course.
Absolutely, and one thing you'll notice, she finishes very balanced. Something we see out of a lot of amateurs and our students is finishing flat-footed, finishing on your back foot, finishing off balance. You don't see these players do that, and I think that's something that everybody needs to note and work on for themselves is, no, they're not finishing flat-footed. They have that back foot off the ground, their target side foot nice and planted, and that weight transition, that is what you need to have a solid finish. And I always tell my students too, like, my finish is almost like my cheat code. If I hold my finish and I see, okay, my weight's on my back foot, something went wrong there, or if I hold my finish and I don't see my belly buttons to the target, okay, something happened there. Your finish tells you so much. And you can see out of Georgia Hall, like you said, very consistent, very balanced, always finishes with her belly button to the target, showcasing that full turn. But definitely hold your finish. See what you can see what you could take away from each shot after you hold your finish. But obviously a lot of consistency out of her.
Yeah, and I think too, another thing that we just talked about with another player out on the range here was the takeaway, right? And you can see Georgia's swing on the top tracer and where she's headed, and probably working on some sort of flighted shot, I would say. You know, she's from Europe and wants to make. She probably has a little bit of knowledge on how to hit those low shots, and she's going to need them out here today because the wind just kind of seems to be picking up more and more. So. She'll probably have some nice success out here, I would think, just with the experience. But anyway, so the takeaway here, you saw her kind of move that club back a little bit and trying to figure out like where she's at right off the ball. I think it's important to kind of rehearse your takeaway a little bit and see where you're at, because sometimes you bring it too far inside and you'll get stuck on the downswing. If you bring it too far outside, then you might loop around and cast, which a lot of amateur golfers do, and that's how a slice starts, right? And so I think, you know, when you're out on the range and you're just practicing, follow Georgia Hall's lead a little bit and check out that takeaway, right? Like, it's okay. We were talking earlier about practice swings. It's okay not to hit 1,000 balls on the range when you're out practicing. You can actually, you know, in an hour's time, you can hit 25 golf balls, but if you can do a bunch of practice swings and rehearsal motions like you see here, she's kind of working on a little bit of a takeaway, then you can get those feelings down, right? And then you're more confident on the golf course. So I really like what she's doing here, just trying to kind of get things lined up and make sure everything's checking out before she heads out at 12:38.
Absolutely, and for me personally, I like to do a little waggle before every shot. Just something I do to help get some tension out. The last thing we want to see as PGA coaches is you just stand directly over the ball for a while. You can see your grip get a little bit more tense. You see your shoulders get tight. Something like that, even though she is working on her takeaway, doing a motion like that right before you hit the ball, not only does it emphasize what you're working on right before you swing the club, but also it gets some tension out. It helps move the body a little bit right before you swing the club, and something like that is super beneficial, obviously, fundamentally, because she is working on her takeaway, but to get into that habit and that routine of making sure your body is nice and loose before you swing.
Yeah, and you know, now we're seeing Georgia with a looks like a hybrid or a fairway medal, and you know, we talked earlier when we were watching Yanni Tseng about kind of how she started with wedges and works her way up through a driver, right? And I think, you know, you can kind of start wherever you want in your bag, but it's important to make sure that those first couple shots are quality shots and you're getting your rhythm and your tempo and your feels down, right? And you know, remembering your grip stance and posture and making sure, and that's a little bit easier to do with the shorter clubs. And so Georgia's kind of probably midway through her practice swing here. You know, she tees off in, you know, just under 15 minutes, and so she's headed up to the longer clubs now and probably trying to dial in what it's going to feel like to hit on the first tee. Like the first hole on Fields Ranch East is a par 5, right? So she's probably thinking, okay, I get my ball in the fairway, I got this club probably to try to get close to the green and for my third shot, right? And what is that feeling like, and what is that shot looking like? And it doesn't look like it's going particularly awesome, I would say. She seems kind of working through it pretty fast, but you know, sometimes it's hard to tell with these players. I know that a few of them, you know, are just trying to get through their pre-shot routine and get through their range warm-up as fast as possible, and so. Yeah, but I think, you know, working through the bag is an important thing to remember when you're out on the range, and making sure that you're hitting all the clubs the right way is important, especially, you know, when you're out, you know, playing in maybe a bigger tournament or, you know, major tournament like these players are, or just playing with your friends. It's important to make sure the bag is good.
Yeah, I mean, the caddy's filming her swing right now. She's got 15 minutes before she tees off. Not the most ideal scenario. As somebody that's played some competition golf, you never want to panic, ask somebody, hey, can you film my swing? I need to find something real quick. But, I mean, these are the best players in the world. I'm sure she'll figure it out. But I totally agree with you. I think not only is it important to move up in the bag, but I think having a consistent routine before each round of golf. You know, for me personally, I like to go every other club. I just skip a club. I'm not going to go through every club in the bag. And also, every golfer is different. You know, I can go every other club. Somebody else can go every club. Some players can go 2 or 3 clubs. But I think it's important to start with definitely those wedges and then move up. And then also something, too, that people at home should keep in mind. It's super beneficial, especially if you're about to play a tournament round or a big competition at your golf club. My last 2 shots in the driving range are playing that first hole. So say the first hole is par 4, par 5. I'll hit a driver. I'll hit whatever club I think will be my approach shot. And I might hit a soft wedge in there as well, just to make sure my wedges are good. And then I'll walk off the range, just to have those shots in your brain so you can visualize over the tee, okay, I just hit the shot on the driving range. I can be sure I can do that on the first tee here as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, I think this is actually a really fascinating watch here. Is just, she's clearly trying to find something, and as the time dwindles down, you get closer and closer to that first tee, and it's a little bit of an anxiety match, I would say. But you know what? These are the best players in the world, so as soon as she finds something, I guarantee you she's probably, we're wrapped up here, and I'm going to the first tee, because one thing that I always try to do at the end of my range session, I want to end on a good shot. I want to see the ball go straight. I want to see it go where my target is, and I want to make sure that that's the last thing I feel before I go to the first tee, right? Because if you're feeling, you know, oh, I just duck hooked that one, or I just hit that one way right, or I just chunked that one, and well, now I got to go to the first tee, you know, give yourself a little bit of time and just try to, at least that last shot you hit before you go to the first tee is a good one. So hopefully for Georgia's sake, she ends on a good one.
Oh, for sure. And I know some of us golfers are superstitious, me definitely included. I went through a span where if I had a good driving range session, I was awful on the golf course, and vice versa. If I had a bad driving range session, I knew it was going to be a good day on the golf course. So Georgia, I'm hoping the same for you. I'm sure you're going to do great out there today. She could have a career round with how this is going right now.
Yeah, exactly. And now, you know, we're moving on down the range here and just trying to see some new faces and new names. And yeah, and one of the things that you'll probably see a lot today, you know, out on the golf course, watching the first round of the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, is, you know, how far do these players hit it? Georgia's hit it about around the 250 range, right? So that's I would say that's about average here on the PGA Tour. Probably a little bit longer than normal, but than the normal average. But you know, a good healthy hit, and yeah, it's just an interesting watch here. I mean, I I feel for her a little bit as a golfer.
We've all
you
been
know,
there.
she's clearly trying to find something, but I think it's important for people at home to see this, right? That they're not perfect, and you know, she's hitting a 248, but it might not be perfectly straight, and she's just trying to find something like just anything to get me to the first tee, right? And I think once she finds that, she'll be in a good frame of mind. And it's important to just remember we're all human, right? And we all make mistakes, and golfing isn't a game of perfect. I'm not trying to hit a perfect shot every single time, and I'm not going to hit a perfect shot every single time. We've already seen that today out on the golf course, and I'm sure the players know that they're the same way. And so I think it's important that, you know, if you're struggling with a move or something and trying to figure out, you know, what can I do to get back to where I need to be, just take your time, take a deep breath, and just make sure that you're giving yourself some patience, and make sure that you're ultimately trying to find the center of the club face. So.
Absolutely, and I think if you're struggling on the range before a big round or anything like that, go to a shot. You get a go-to shot.
Yes.
You know, it could be different for every player. So we do have a question from the comments. How would we practice putting before a round of golf? Ryan, do you have any thoughts first, and then I can jump in?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I like to break my putting practice into two segments, right? I just drop a few balls down from 15 feet and just try to get the feel out. I'm trying to get the speed right, trying to get the break right, and just kind of try to figure out, like, what are the greens going to be out on the course, right? So, and then what I try to do is the most important putts out on the course tend to be like those short ones for par or for bogey or even for double bogey. You're trying to avoid that big number, and where things can kind of go wrong is from close by the hole. So what I do is I drop 3 balls around the hole from 5 feet, and I don't leave until I make all 3, right? And you know, obviously you want to give yourself enough time to do that, but it's a test of like confidence building, but also pressure putting, right? Because if you make 2 out of 3, then you got that last one, and it's a little more pressure, right? So a little bit of, you know, break and speed to start, and then I try to get to just seeing the ball going in the hole from a short distance. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I am definitely more of a field-based player on the putting green. Whenever I'd start practicing putting, I'd quite literally go to the most random spots. I would drop 3 golf balls, 15, 20 feet, just to get the feel of the speed first. Obviously, I would be very happy if I saw some of those go in, but the 15 to 20 feet range is good for definitely after approach shots. You're going to have a lot of those putts out there. So I'd do super random at first, just getting the feel. And then after that, I would work on visualizing the ball going into the hole. We can't stress enough how important it is to see that 3-footer go in, that 4-footer go in, that 5-footer go in before you head out onto the golf course. So same thing, I still have 3 golf balls. I do a 3-footer, 4-footer, 5-footer. I make the 3-footer, make the 4-footer, make the 5-footer, go from a different angle. And I do that quite a few times, just like I said, not only to see the ball go into the hole, but get that feel of, okay, what kind of pace do I have to put on these shorter putts or longer putts. You definitely have to take a look at the type of greens you're playing too. Grain plays a major role at some of these courses. A shiny side versus dull side, I'm sure a lot of you have heard that, but you can see that on the practice greens. Okay, I have a shiny putt, this is going to be a little faster. This looks like a little bit more of a dull color, it's going to be a little bit slower. And I also like to see the difference of an uphill putt versus a downhill putt on the practice green before I head out there, just to see not only how much break do I have to play with those downhill putts, but just how soft I have to play them as well. But I'm with you. Visualizing is super important. Hearing that ball go into the hole. I can't tell you how many amateurs don't practice those gimme putts. You know, they're playing a lot of casual golf with friends, and then you invite them out to a pro-am, and they actually have to make that 2-footer, and they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen one of these in a while go in. So it's definitely important before you go out there, practice those 2-footers. Even the 1-footer. I would be lying if I said I haven't missed one of those before in my life. So practicing the feel of the speed, then going into visualizing those shorter putts. But yeah, no, I think a lot of golfers have different routines. A lot of golfers are a little bit more technical on the putting green as well, but I am totally team feel-based here. But hey, if that technical aspect suits you a little bit better, then go for it.
Yeah, no, totally. And one other thing that if you have some extra time before a round is maybe trying to find a hole that's like 30, 40 feet away and working on some lag putting, because you'll see it today out on the course when you're watching play here at the KPMG Women's PGA, is that the greens here are undulating. Some of them are bigger than others, some are smaller than others, but you're going to have a lot of long putts, and lag putting is super important, right? So drop a couple balls from 30 to 40 feet on a certain putt and just feel out, that stroke that works for you, right? Hit the first one, see how far it goes with the stroke you had, and just kind of, maybe it's five balls, and just try to, as you get further down that practice, closer to that last ball, then hopefully you've kind of dialed in what it takes to get the ball close on a lag putt, right? And what I always try to, a good visualization for that is like a 3-foot ring, or like a hula hoop around the hole, and that's where you want to get it inside from, right? It's not necessarily trying to make lag putts. I think if it goes in, great. Like we're never mad if a 30 to 40 footer goes in, but at the very least, leave yourself a shorter putt so that it's a 2-putt and not a 3-putt. So
I completely agree. I mean, let's be real. We have so many 30, 40 foot long putts that we got to practice out there.
Yeah, and I think we're talking another fan question there about the backswing and making sure, like, pausing at the top of your swing. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, right? I think you've probably seen Hideki Matsuyama do a little bit of a pause on the PGA Tour. You might see some players out here today. I think a pause, well, first of all, I would say if you're working with a PGA coach, ask them, right? And does this benefit my swing, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you've seen my swing hundreds of times. I want to try this pause to help with a little bit with tempo and setting up my transition. Is that going to help me? And they can kind of walk you through what the benefits of a pause might be. I will say from my vantage point, like if you're trying to kind of like get set on the downswing, a pause can help a little bit, right? Because then it allows you to like have a checkpoint at the top. Like you're not necessarily like pausing for like 5 seconds and trying to come down through the ball. You're just doing a little bit of a pause to get set at the top and then let that lower body fire through and try to be, have a center contact shot. So pause, good thing, bad thing, but, I would say it's a good thing if you're looking for a little bit more of a help with your transition. So
I totally agree. And just on top of that, one of the most common drills I give a student is the pause at the top of the backswing.
Yeah.
A lot of things we see a lot are people trying to initiate their downswing before they even finish their backswing. So doing a long pause at the top as a drill on the driving range definitely can help your timing. And 2, I do a full stop at some points with students as well. So they take the club up to the top, they do a full stop, and it allows them to have time to communicate to their lower body, okay, you're turning first. Because a lot of times that you see amateurs, they just do all arms in the downswing. Doing a full stop at the top, telling their body, okay, you're turning first, is a great tool, and so definitely team pause. But our next player here is Danielle Kang. We're kind of right front and center here. We have a great visual of what she's working on with her and her caddy. Looks like she's starting out with some wedges. She's got an alignment stick down, which is super beneficial. To all of you golfers out there, alignment is something that not everybody works on, especially on the driving range. You have to aim at something. I can't tell you how many lessons I've opened up with, okay, tell me where you're aiming, and they're just like, middle, center. And I'm like, okay, middle, center of what? What are we aiming at? Let's pick out a flag, let's pick out a tree, let's pick out something. So it's super important to have an alignment stick out for not only consistency, but help your PGA coach out, okay? Let's work on that alignment.
Yes, exactly, yeah, and just getting warmed up here, and we did something similar at Quail Hollow when we did the range sessions. And, Danielle's obviously a 2017 KPMG Women's PGA Champion. She knows her stuff, right? And she knows exactly what she's trying to do. And, we talked about this a little bit earlier, is starting lower with the wedges, shorter clubs in the bag, and she's trying to feel where am I at with these clubs, and then also making sure she's got the check on the fundamentals, right? Abby talked about the alignment stick and how much of that can help you. We saw an alignment stick at the PGA Championship with every player, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more this week, right? And so you hear that, right? The best players in the world here at Fields Ranch East are using alignment sticks. You don't need to get a super fancy alignment stick. You can just get, you can go to Home Depot and they have the markers they use when there's snow up in the north and stuff. And
you can use a club.
You can use a club, right? Like, and there's a lot of different things you can use for alignment, and just setting a club down or setting a stick down to just see you know, where you're aimed at is a good checkpoint, right? And I think it's great to see Danielle doing that, and she looks like she's kind of working through maybe a shorter iron, higher wedge now, and probably going to work all the way up to the top of the bag. So.
Yeah, and something that you guys didn't see, but we were lucky enough to see, is she's actually been here for a little while. She's been warming up, stretching,
Yep.
Getting her body moving before she even touched a club. And we can't stress how important that is. It's stress enough how important that is, because if you just pick up a club and swing, it gives me goosebumps. I personally, that hurts my body even thinking about it. You got to get your body warmed up before you start swinging that club. So I applaud her for stretching she was here for quite a while, so
Yeah.
I'm glad she's all warmed up. But like you said, she's starting with those shorter clubs, which we definitely believe is the way to go. She's focusing on those fundamentals. A fun way to think about your fundamentals when you're getting going is the PGA posture grip alignment. That is a great way to get started. But on top of that, don't forget, we still have the comment section open. Be sure to ask us more questions. We're happy to help. But yeah, it looks like she's just getting warmed up, getting started with those shorter clubs.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you can kind of see, you saw just right there, just again, working on that takeaway, and she's actually like looking back to see, hey, where am I at on my backswing, right? Like, and it's okay to do that, you know, on the range or whatever. Maybe not something I recommend on the golf course, but you know, she's just trying to see, like, making sure, like, are my hands in the right place? Is the club head in the right place? Am I going to be able to go to the top and be in a good position and come down and make a nice strike? Because if if all of a sudden I see my hands go to the inside or to the outside, then I know I'm going to be a little bit off track. And, you know, if you got any questions about the takeaway or turns or whatever you see out here on the range, just feel free to drop them in the comment section. We'll make sure Abby and I tackle those. But yeah, you know, one of the things I've always loved about Danielle's swing too, she's like extremely consistent. There's not a lot of sway or change, or
Very stable.
She's not trying to overpower the golf course. She's always kind of stuck to that recipe, and you know, I think that's probably what won her that KPMG Women's PGA Championship in Chicago a few years ago. Is you know, sticking to my game plan, right? And I think that's an important. You just saw there, she went to grab some water. Abby mentioned stretching. Hydration today is also going to be super important, right? You do not want to be in a dehydrated state on the golf course. So as the summer kind of kicks up here and it's starting to get warmer and more humid, great, the sun's out, don't forget to pack some water along with those adult beverages, and make sure you switch off every once in a while. But yeah, back to her swing is, I think, you know, there's something to be said about a game plan, right? And not trying to, you might be playing with people that hit it further or shorter, and I think it's more important to, yeah, we're trying to, yeah, good drills like before the round, maybe, Abby, if you can kind of share on that, and we'll get back to Danielle's swing in a little bit.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you for the question. Great drills to find your tempo before your round. I mean, there's so many. Something as simple as, well, from a young age, I said inside of my head and outside, I would say back and through. And so if my tempo felt off, I would audibly say back and through when I swung. And so obviously if I would hear back and through, you know, a little bit more stressed on the way through, that would tell me, okay, my tempo's a little bit off for sure. But I definitely think starting with quarter length swings, getting into half swings, getting into 3/4 swings, then jumping into the full swing, that's a great way to get your tempo dialed as well, because you could tell early on with a very abbreviated swing that your tempo is off. So it's definitely a tell if you start with those shorter swings to get your tempo dialed in. But there's so many different ways. I had one of my great friends in golf, she would say peanut butter and jelly inside of her head, and that is how she would get her tempo. There's some quirky ways to do it, obviously, but whatever helps. Tempo is extremely important, especially as you warm up and ahead of a round. But what about you, Ryan? What do you think about?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the ways that I've always tried to just kind of get a good tempo down is I flip the club around and actually grip it near the club head, and think about hearing that whoosh sound with the grip, right? Like, and if you can tell, like, okay, that was way too fast, okay, that was way too slow, and you kind of can dial in like what feels right to me, and that's probably the right tempo for you, right? It's just hearing that it's not like too rushed, it's not too slow, but it sounds just right. And maybe doing, you know, 5 or 6 of those and trying to figure out, like, hey, what works best for me here? Yeah, that sounded pretty good, and now flip the club back over and try that tempo, right? And I think, you know, one other thing is, maybe if you're warming up, is maybe grab an extra club or two and just take, you know, using some extra weight behind the swing can also help once you actually go back to the club you're using, that can help you make a good move at it too, right? Because you had a heavier club, and now you're going to the club with a third or less weight or half of the weight, and that can help you feel a little bit better, and you have a little bit better of a tempo. So as we see Danielle take out the driver here, and anytime a player's got the driver out, it's always fun for us on the range. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a hot topic right now, especially in golf, #1 player in the world for the men's, Scottie Scheffler, his footwork. And something that you'll see here with Danielle's footwork, I've noticed a lot, she finishes in her front foot, or her target side foot, is almost not even fully on the ground because so much weight is pushing towards that front foot. And I think that's important to look at, especially for power, right? We generate power from the ground up. You can see her almost get into more of a squat with this club as well. Nice club twirl, really enjoyed that. That must have been a good one. But you can see her lower body is generating so much power. It's not her upper body. You guys can hit the gym as much as you want. You can hit that bench press as much as you want. We generate power from the ground up. You can see those hips firing to the target. You can see all of her weight pushed towards that front foot. So I definitely think that's something that people at home need to take a look at. She's not using her arms. It almost looks like that club is just falling behind her because of all of that lag that she's generating. So definitely keep an eye on what her lower body's doing. Driver's looking awesome. Her finish is unbelievable. Big fan.
Yep. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, we get a nice view too of like just where the ball is at on the in front of the club, and I think one of the things people kind of forget or may not think too much about is how high do I need to tee the ball, right? I like to do like a half ball above the club. If you're trying to hit a little bit of a higher drive, or you're struggling with some height, maybe you tee it a little bit higher. If you're hitting it too many pop-ups, maybe you tee a little bit lower. But that half ball, if you can see half the ball above your top of your club, and I think that's always kind of a good marking point to know, like, hey, this is, if I make the correct swing, I'm gonna hit the shot. Okay, so thinking about just something that a lot of people maybe don't understand, or how high to tee the ball. That's a good reference point, is a half a ball above the club. So as she moves probably back into some wedges here, trying to dial in those scoring yardages, Abby.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you with the tee length, first of all. And I think it's great and very beneficial to those new golfers. They have those tees now where there's a notch, so you can put it in consistently every time. It's about a notch halfway down the tee. And if you're just now getting into golf, I definitely recommend those. Get that consistency early with how you tee up the ball. But I love seeing players go from driver to wedge. Bring your swing back down to earth. Bring your body back down to earth. You put a lot of effort into those bigger clubs. Getting that wedge out, kind of getting back into tempo is very beneficial.
Yeah, no doubt. And Danielle's off to go off to play, and we're going to kind of take a look out to the golf course, into the driving range here at PGA Frisco in Frisco, Texas, and hope you enjoy.
As wide as I can go. Now I'm set.